Sure. So a great example of this is Canada, which has, a great example of this is Canada, which has incredible domestic pressure to not sell arms to Saudi Arabia, but they just greenlit them because of increased military pressures from COVID. Yeah, do you have any evidence saying that the US would force Canada to follow on?
We've also read other pieces of evidence that says that ending US support is sufficient for Saudi Arabia to also draw down. This is just a preempt.
Sure, I'm asking an argument specifically about follow on. Cool. Do you have a single piece of solvency evidence post ceasefire? Like the recent ceasefire that happened a few days ago?
Well, we don't.
Yeah, no, it's on like the uniqueness part of the advantage.
So we think that even though the ceasefire, like even though we don't have evidence that happened after the ceasefire, the conditions still remain.
Okay, cool. Sure. On the framing, can I move on to the framing page?
Yeah.
On the framing page, what distinguishes your evidence for empathy for people starving in Yemen from the victims of a hypothetical nuclear war?
Well, the point is that the Conway evidence and the Patil and Silanati evidence establish a distinction between the way that empathy works when we use utilitarian versus deontological concerns. And it concludes that on the vast majority of instances, whenever we default to deontology, we are more likely to foster empathy within students and within human relationships, which is why it should be.
Okay, so how does the affirmative's assumption of things like internal link chains and the idea that the affirmative could solve for the conflict of Yemen, how is that deontological?
Well, it is deontological because we're saying that certain things should be prioritized over others, i.e. that the Yemen war and that genocide is a moral obligation to prevent, which is a deontological consideration, which is why us being
What's the difference between the genocide that happens in Yemen and the genocide that happened, or in the mass death that happens in the context of a nuclear war?
Sorry, what? I didn't hear the question.
It's fine.
1 and C assent, 6 off case. In the order of framing advantage. All right. Everyone good?
Give us a sec.
All right.
We're good.
All right, sweet. Everyone good? First off, new relief package solves fast economic collapse, but it's close by partnerships key. Warner 46. Congressional leaders in the White House are converging to contain economic devastation. Trump's support for some ideas. Democrats backdoor ever comes to the economy. Fortunes appear to have political decisions. Significant differences remain. Sexual whether that's what we should deal policy. Choice from proposals that are most objectionable. The economy is already fast. As thorny false questions about the next bill is how to pass the bill. Those social was how it depend on the pandemic. Whether change in terms of Trump becoming the other one solution. And the arms are partisan. The ATT proves AI-19. The U.S. withdrawal from the AT puts partisanship and problem for human life. Trump announced the U.S. withdrawal from the ICT, undoing its support for an agreement that has establishment to human rights. The corporations that were incorporated in disruptive that says on policy control of changes and collapse goes nuclear concept 15. Negative trade expectations and generate tension leading to trade wars that increase the risk of military conflict. Leaders in the state decline and they blame external dependence and refuse to be deterred by nuclear arms. That the greatest risk is the change in the world economy would run say peace and the precarious terms to lose credibility for or next off producer first you see measures to establish qualitative or quantitative limits on weapon exports. It's distinct from the AFS restriction Pierce 88. Restriction of sales entails embargoes to specific or classes, states or types of weapon. Restriction of transfers includes more specific more measures such as quantitative limits and vote neg for predictable limits. Direct policy abstract substance of weapons in the country, which makes neg prep impossible. Next off, Iran is a revisionist power to dominate the Middle East. Only containment restrains ambitions of Prince War down to modern IT. Iran, that's declaring the power they held top of the side of and behind the common Yemen. The goal has been clear to dominate the Middle East. The nuclear court failed to more bold and aggressive national pressure, the only change around behavior, seeing military aggression, attacks on non-technical script, and reducing arms plus collapses U.S. containment problem, and the posture incentivize Iranian aggression and proliferation until 12. A policy to withhold weapons from the GCC will deny the system means of deterrence and counteracting Iran. Iran could be encouraged to build nukes and then proliferation around the world. Since the U.S. policy is to withhold weapons from the GCC may believe the U.S. will not punish them for movements and remain on development of nukes and throwing contain Iran describes U.S. security assurance in East Asia, leading to cascading proliferation and great power war 2015. Asian allies worry about the precedent Iran sets for U.S. leadership to U-turn the Middle East. Should make the Asian friends anxious to Japan. See U.S. that it's hard to maintain military posture balance Iran and worry about the same coalition in the region of Chicago with China that was Alex was entry powers may produce are both great power conflicts and allied will cause nuclear war in every region. 10 or 17 in the event of a nuclear Japan and so with some nuclear war will be great nuclear arms and so Japan will finish in historical suspicion and cascade of races and nukes in the Middle East and Latin America and afterwards continue over nuclear war will be manifold and high. Next off, the U.S. Saudi alliance will continue after Khashoggi, but it's fragile and permanent. The U.S. Saudi relationship will continue to Saudi Arabia as an energy source of many of our allies and the banning Saudi Arabia hand the region to Iran and undermining credibility far beyond the region eventually establishing Chinese hegemony. The size can find other partners the size can turn Moscow operation for different alliance and the plan is the U.S. Saudi alliance be very key. It's not reasonable to fear back on the size and BS with one reference to from more powers around overseas emphasis I say just transaction was but as a limit test whether countries will throw against it given current Saudi war and otherwise functional alliances over arms and that's not the U.S. is backlash to people in Washington and expanding Russian, Chinese, and Iranian hegemony risk nuclear great power war and collapse of the global economy. Gradual Metro 16. Revisionist powers were using a strategy of probing China and Russia were learning from one another. The allies have begun to pursue arms as well as entering the path toward multiple large predatory states keeping in front of with great power war against people competitors Russia, China, and Iran have employed the low agency crisis to test U.S. power and determine for wrestling the assumption the U.S. is able to hopefully it's for the obligations and the assumption that it is willing to do so. Our probing allies to Georgia armed forces and the base of global economic growth of the powers assessing nuclear weapons and non-national framing that's what we're used for to fight the U.S. Okay, so we'll come to nuclear attack and next off. The United States federal government essentially increased diplomatic contacts with Saudi Arabia and all with the purpose of establishing mutually agreed requirements for the Stockholm agreements and invitation with an immediate focus on fighting occurring in ports and port cities. The efforts to get Saudi Arabia to establish back channels and mutual conflict measures with Ansar Allah and diplomatic forums and meetings between Saudi Arabia and Ansar Allah amid military de-escalation with a long-term focus on the termination of the Houthi Iranian alliance with power sharing agreements in Yemen. The counterplans of ICG-19. International ICC initiative, the three ports in the part of the city credibility humanitarian access to Holland, Houthi cross-border attack and exchange for positive interruption and intense Saudi airstrike, Houthi targets, and understanding between the kingdom and then Houthi will lessen the war to hit on Iran. Houthi officials are necessitating these matters. Yes, to play a lead role by pressure as well as the contact with the Houthis. They're going to decide useful assessment. Next off, war is not an event; it's a continuum that at every point of the Afghan side is the problem by adopting a disembodied lens of analysis that ignores the root cause of war. Copper 15. Generations they point to is the persistence of male dominance as competitive and combative and feminist journey and narrative about the concept of forwards and standalone masculine femininity. Features that the spectrum of balance from women activists who grew up on order sway that's like in the genetic female balance deal with women's civilization within IANSIS and has to press negotiation of the ACC the feminist analysis interrupts the patriarchy group causes the presupposes science and militarism and war fighting that makes war always or likely. And the alternative is to reject the act in favor of an ontological revision and then deconstruct the myth of the masculine Western selfish and so forth. The mainstream takes a monocentric reality as a given feminism go beyond the appearance and examine how power her social the mainstream hierarchy and stops from taking account general as long as alternative further ontological elimination will continue to be reducing ontological or some critical understanding of why often can seem problematic that this intelligence asking as masculine itself and ontological revisionism goes further to partial power and masculinity and the extent national power and influence and on to framing extinction outweighs loss and 12 1 strategies and assess alternative way of looking at the situation of president saying of which might be confused by women and no account to account as a big win. If you're uncertain about ultimate aims, there's great without value in serving and longer right now, and instead future training the future humanity is associated to increase the probability of the future contain of activities with most capacity and risk is magnitude times probability. Balance is therefore with ours, but probability first falls prey to psychological biases and leads to mass death. Part 8. Social science, their biases phenomena that are frequent about most thing has no biases which lead to conceptual narrative of extreme events and conceptual blinders lead to no lack of disasters will be poorly prepared to deal with disaster probability theories and complete when you see negative about what government should do when possible thing with this film we can be talking about responding on the advantage habit dumps at all costs. Let's 410. The report provides a troubling snapshot of Albany and insurmountable challenges about report how countries face it. The number of infections and deaths will continue to rise sharply. This is the COVID-19 Yemen is an American scenario. They had a total of 3 testing centers. Given last time important from 89 to necessity of countries as virtually no and the ceasefire solves the illusion of 49. The unprecedented unilateral Saudi ceasefire and the coronavirus pandemic helped push all parties and try to turn April 9th to begin a unilateral 2-week ceasefire. The coronavirus will provide the guarantee combination facing opportunity for all parties. Saudi Arabia started it took an action by now from the ceasefire is seeking access. Saudi Arabia has to talk to the Houthis over putting their first major Yemeni government military loss in years. The Saudis will now Saudi is stepping up attempts to de-escalate and punish those who attack civilians. Reuters 19. Saudi promised to investigate military operation in the case has been referred to the coalition in keeping with commitment to international humanitarian law. Saudi Arabia has set up in the ceasefire and stopping arms. Saudi Arabia guarantees a Houthi victory. Turns case unites at all. 19. A growing chorus called in the yes withdrawal, yes support for the Saudi war for all limit of all the options. This is at least like the stop the killing. The fighting will go on. Troops remain elusive and must accept it. They have nothing to gain. Let them fighting the road run supposed to be accepting perfect bloodshed and ethnic cleansing and negotiating settlement into where we recommend certainly don't. Other such settlements are withdrawing yes support will involve the Houthis and their writing support being much less accept a agreement and unless the Houthis are given a power fund to set access to the recent they'll do so from the yes support. Right now the Houthis win and our training programs have led to rapid decrease in inflow and caches. And the Houthis are worse than in 19. Saudi pilots have been receiving high-level training to reduce civilian caches. The DSS has been working to improve procedures and encourage expedited transfer. Training has helped them to reduce on-not-claim caches. There's been a marked decrease. The the culture has been facing the path of these kind of foreign investigators. Same much can be applied to Houthis and who will attack civilians. Okay, I'm good for process. I think you're muted.
My bad.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
Let's start on the advantage page. The COVID thumper, like what does it thump?
I think it thumps the genocide. I think it thumps deaths of mass amounts of people in Yemen. I think that evidence is pretty good on how Yemen is unique.
It thumps our impact of Yemeni people dying.
I mean, I think that in conjunction.
Wait, no. Yeah, your evidence says that the problem is that Yemen doesn't have like medical like equipment. If they could get the aid, which like Saudi Arabia is blocking, wouldn't that solve for the COVID-19?
The card also indicates Yemen has all of 3 testing centers, which wouldn't be provided by a lack of Saudi blockade. That's a structural, infrastructural problem in the Yemeni government, which the affirmative would not solve.
It also says Yemen relies on imports for some 80 to 90% of necessities. These are structural factors the app can't solve. That means Yemen's uniquely dependent.
Counterplan. Oh wait, status of off.
Status quo is always an option.
So conditional.
Yeah.
All right. Can you kick links?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. On the K, what is an ontological revisionism?
I think Eleanor can answer that better than I could.
Sure. So the ontological revisionism identified in the Young's evidence is sort of a fundamental ground-up reevaluation of how the U.S. does foreign policy. The Cochrane evidence identifies a couple of specific examples where this sort of lens of foreign policy has been combined with feminist grassroots movements across the world to create real structural change. It identifies people like the Okinawan Women Against Military Violence who used this sort of change in Japan's militarized structure.
Can you walk me through the links to the app?
Sure.
On
So
the counter plan, what incentive does Saudi Arabia have to say yes to the proposition that the counter plan creates?
I think that the ICG evidence is quite good on the question of how both sides want to come to the table, and that this is a solution that would allow for both of them to reach a peace settlement.
We also have incredibly recent evidence indicating the reason the ceasefire is happening now is.
So the ICG evidence was obviously written before ceasefires that occurred near the end of 2019, such as the Riyadh agreement. So if you were correct that all of those factors were in place, why did the Riyadh agreement fail?
No.
We actually have specific recent evidence indicating that right now Saudis uniquely want to end the war. Yeah.
I also don't think that really. That ceasefire was not implemented with these requirements, right? These are different things. So this is an ICG proposal of which we should do. Those were not implemented, which means that the solvency of this question has not been seen.
Okay, so what parts have not been implemented? Because right now, your evidence just says Saudi should establish back channel communication with Ansar Allah. They've already done that before the Riyadh agreement. The U.S. already has pressure, etc. Okay, I'll send it up. Did everyone get it?
Let me
I do not have it.
I also do not have it. Oh, okay. I just got it.
So is everyone good?
What's the order?
The order?
Oh, sorry, my bad. So case, so the advantage, framing, T subsets, so T Pearson, the negotiations counterplan, the Saudi relations dissad, the Iran appeasement dissad, the politics dissad, then the K.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, so the advantage, framing, T, the counterplan, the Saudi relations dissad, the Iran appeasement dissad, the politics dissad, then the K.
All right, sweet. I'm good.
Okay. Case that way, spouses are for payment intersection should have said you don't know the rule. COVID-19 thus we obviously can't serve all family for the blood, but looking at the blockade odds for 8 to enter, we still save thousands of lives. They say the ceasefire still talks failed. That's a Chilean, Harajal, and Hubbard. Evidence one is Saudi Arabia announced a ceasefire, but continued violence make it seem like the Houthis were the ones to continue the war. They will use Houthi violence as the excuse to restart the war. Two, Saudi Arabia doesn't want to end the war. Warlords convince them that they can still win, and they don't want to give up influence to Iran. The recent airstrikes have continued on Houthi targets. Force of the blockade is ramping up, which makes peace impossible because the Houthis said that they would only agree to peace if Saudi Arabia stopped the blockade. They say Saudi Arabia is trying to end the war. Wrong. They've ramped up airstrikes in the blockade. First, they don't actually want to end the war. Era after our evidence proceeds years by months. They say the Houthis will continue. Houthi violence is inevitable because Saudi Arabia will lose the war now. It's only a question of how quickly we can end the Yemen war to solve Saudi violence. Houthis are not proxies, but we solve one is the Houthis will not need Iran after the war ends. Since the real evidence is that we force Saudi Arabia to agree to a settlement. So there's no one that the Houthis will fight. That's about the evidence. And Houthi violence does not have the same genocidal scale. They do not enforce blockades that kill millions or launch civilian airstrikes, so it doesn't turn our impact. Also, UAE percent of the Houthis will stop our all. I think when the UAE began war with the Yemen, the Houthis will have to tell me how the UAEs you'll be attacking Saudi Arabia. Saudi will follow these that they are also the training programs are who cares? We ground Saudi Arabia's offensive operations, so Saudi Arabia cannot ramp up violence. The framing case, you see, extinction for probability comes first. There's always a 1% chance of extinction which stops us from responding to ongoing violence. Long link chains may future impacts less likely. That's the Kessler evidence, and we have a moral obligation to stop genocide by Syrians, make the conflict more likely, and you have a cognitive bias against it. That's an evidence. Reject UTIL. One is the study show that forces us to suppress empathy, while deontology fosters it. Only empathetic people gives us emotional intelligence and reduces biases to make us better people. That's the Miko evidence. Who is the UTIL is incoherent because future lives can't suffer. That means the alpha always have magnitude because our effects are certain about. So that's the ultimate evidence. T substance. We end all ourselves for operations one Yami counter into reduced species diminished in size anchored. AD consideration of the plane media versus results returning solutions to the plane reduced species diminished in size. Also Pearson is wrong. Our app is designed to control weapons experts, so we definitely need they overlimit the exclude court to base over specific calculations or regional issues. We would lose to unbeatable place. No offense success for every reason. You can just counterplay first for reasonably goes again. Enough. The negotiation counterplan turns to be a turn to the counterplan links to the if pressure is extreme enough to work, it's enough to trigger the dissent and links to politics that requires Congress still have a debate over whether to force Saudi Arabia to negotiate. Even if someone is recent counterplay cannot solve one delay, a challenge through 10 minutes. Even small delays mean massive casualties. They think complicit with genocide. Talks take years without the F. Question 19. Trauma test open for the Houthi rebels and Saudi problem Houthis playing such a role with these diplomacy on Washington South the war hosting is the U.S. for the Kaiman. Uncertain years from overseas to becoming overseas anybody forced to take serious negotiations. To be Saudi Arabia will violate peace deal Stockholm and the September deal both prove that Saudi Arabia will agree to ceasefires and the violate them. Talks will not having one as a sales sister negotiation because they signal that the war can't be won. That's about the evidence. Who is suppressing Saudi Arabia? Is the suppression of Crimea? The U.S. will try to establish security with the Houthi rebels or starting to push bases to show that you're going to have the trouble very less interesting trouble with the situation. You will have to go to security because it's equal to be every single one of the government for the Houthis. Trump was the look that he would not be matching with the most who live appears to be realistic the global results of the president is that to be going to be interest of person below the company will see raise to be compromises versus any bargains he was to pass is the reason for what she's see also this counterplan is just a status quo. Saudi Arabia already opens up black national discussion with the Houthi rebels, but literally no peace occurred from that, and the U.S. is already exerting diplomatic pressure. Literally no peace relations. Obama ended PG and said Trump ended mid-air refueling. What's sort of them? They're still like, what is it? We only had offensive sales. Their evidence assumes a complete breakthrough. Even if the office is downgrade, Saudi Arabia has to keep the alliance going because they need the U.S.'s military presence as supports the evidence is oil and economic benefits. Fees recently to play military presence as well. 20 air force parties, missile bodies, troopers, great security Saudi asked for U.S. running in a study is an element of even here to the presence is destroying somebody around that. U.S. is at the office also with company the Saudi. So does modern presence. So more something Saudi ability to alter security to a little bit U.S. military presence party. Hosting Navy started as AQ Saudi Arabia U.S. military installations. U.S. Navy for the water Saudi Arabia from running aggression. There's no reason why Saudi Arabia is key to Russian hedge in the region. One is that they have military bases in Syria, Eritrea, Egypt, and Libya. Two is that Russia already expanded arms sales to the Middle East. Carabana, Russia needs to new arms to be seized to reach Russia moving Islamic S-400 anti-aircraft systems. U.S. decline is inevitable. Markman 12 in the Middle East. The Middle East is Libya really left to open for Moscow. They run tax oil. Sorry, Trump did nothing. Trump loved this. The worst of the U.S. one of the greatest of the old Russian mercenaries intervening in Libya. Also, China is also other Middle Eastern countries too. Saudi Arabia isn't key, and the BRI sounds spread hedge line layer 18. She plays Williams where there's a one with the airport trying to play the relationship party to the stars in the Middle East, trying to launch or something for the Middle East. Relations with the world companies and for the BRI and the region. It's one with the air trying to reach buildings for the goal of the BRI. Iran is a defensive realist, non-50 license for the company, the defensive realist of Rouhani was the kind of artist, defensive realist of Rouhani, defensive realist of the realist of the rest of isolated, but they the world, they pay their security, the price of the U.S. is high, how they everything's like Russia is like the defensive realist of the U.S. and not refugee way. Their linked evidence is about the GCC using offensive weapons to retaliate to Iran, but what is how other GCC states can deter Iran to assist Saudi Arabia doesn't have the will to use offensive weapons for deterrence. Al-Bukhara, 19, after my sister will reach the raise and the cable of retaliating Saudi Arabia relying on others with Iran, let the person we have even the war for the studying really any confidence to I don't believe with face these types of the horses and re-university recession to the horses of the U.S. challenge study neglected to do this. The other warning was about how the GCC can reduce the burden on the U.S., but one is that defensive sales like that still provide interoperability to us. The U.S. doesn't need the GCC buffer. 20 U.S. attorneys over the recent difference for the conferences and nothing makes the average things such as the average aircraft carrying the circuit they choose to shoot the additional aircraft weapons to shoot things over the rest of the U.S. is willing to take action. Also, there's no internal link because there's zero risk of Iran hedge. One is that Iran can't expand into Yemen. Their forces are too weak and it takes too many resources to do it. That's real evidence to its weak military and appears time and to the team. Iran military is weak out today, going to be for the hardly that army is really capacity military parties wanted that. Yet the study answered the running of the regional authorities and recent hosts study without and essentially live with the Nubian operator, the rising forces with the Wednesdays with the involvement of itself versus taking space to 3 sanctions going to 20. Iran is with the economic combination of the sanctions for the West States works. The oil exports of the like the monetary billions to Iran to as well as the leaders who will the war with worst unfortunate of politics is that the politics is that they're about the instructional core topic education and disinfects specific topics is that to stop partisan. One is that continues to use the Saudi Arabia to bunch of political capital and I see Trump is sending his speeches to the partnership with this text from the capital and the media. 3 2 is that any arms sales to Saudi Arabia is bipartisan. Essence and national health give the prices versus the arms sales Saudi Arabia holding to be relevant. 3 to back to the second to the Congress to logistics to oil war means that Saudi Arabia lost their last line of defense in Carter's Harris. 4 months Saudi losing the last line of defense to the oil war to Russia repelling to the states are heard the price percentage. So Saudi had the reason to be so republic coalition turned out to you're going to prove something coalition coalition of it for Saudi Arabia the rest of the the White House coming with Congress for Iran future readers. Economic crisis don't cost more claim from rival drives for more likely to turn to session crisis versus the leaders of representatives and crisis to at least definitely for the organization crisis equals conversation okay. Caddo is a voter, left or bad decisions with tools education excuse or time is charged by spreading a season business, so it's also a way to plan against a competitive alternative. Anything else is arbitrary and also removes choice fairness and class by oversearching the out-private nuance clash without weighing control the direction of advocacy. Permutation due with the alt does not stop sales to the Saudi coalition. The opposite inevitably the alt does stop sales to the opposite step in the right direction. The opposite massive link to more is a war in Yemen is an instance of use to solve part. The opposite takes a transition towards the less and a bunch of foreign policy. 2 is that we're a middle finger to military industrial complex systems like the DIB because Saudi Arabia is the biggest importer of arms. 3 is that they're right their rips. If they're right, that reps cheaper politics. The F is anti-militarism because the one you see was full of rhetoric criticism to the U.S. and condemning imperialism. Also, for fairness and for fairness and education causes bad beats, avoids class forcing us to be against ourselves. Also, the permutations also late. It's possible for us to talk about multiple points of warfare at once. The alt fails one at a time. Even if the alt eventually sells the F, it takes much longer for minds to shift to spill up to his passivity is not good, but actually reprice imperial and races targets back 15. Sounds of the Yemen Lebanon is really kind of way to really be the process where the impulse targets is myself by lives the white lives matter with things because it was looking the black lives matter. Vague alt and floating pics are better because the sealer offense is used to see time allocation. Yeah.
You good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's start this debriefer card in the counter plan. It's from the warning from a U.S. report saying the Houthis have no enthusiasm to hold talks where does it have any warrant about who the officials speaking to what their motives are?
I didn't read the debriefer.
Okay, let's go to Ron Deal. This evidence, it's from 5 years ago. How does that assume literally anything, including certain the ending of the Iran deal or Iranian aggressive actions after COVID-19, etc.?
So the NAM evidence makes a structural claim about the way that Rouhani looks at the world and says that structurally, it makes two arguments. One is that Iran has had multiple experiences of collaboration with Western nations in Europe, as well as other Western powers, not just the United States. So they know the value of cooperation and believe that they shouldn't always just expand. The second one,
US, no.
Do you want to
I have another question. No, actually, I'm very confused about something right now. Have U.S. and European diplomatic posture towards Iran changed in the past 5 years?
Well, we think that actually
5 years
European
ago.
responses haven't changed as drastically because it talks about how Rouhani does have experience with working with European countries on issues like ISIS, so they do not want to fracture those ties by expanding more in the Middle East.
Well, I think that now, how does this not assume? How does it assume things like sanctions, where they are putting tons of pressure on them, where they have to expand in order to do that?
So yeah, it might be true that Trump has taken a more hardline stance towards Iran, but the last line of the NAM evidence preempts this and says that they argue that they think that the U.S. is in decline, but still thinks that Washington has power, and that they argue with dealing with the U.S. in a non-confrontational manner. So
how does it make a predictive claim about what they will do past a coronavirus pandemic or things that?
Okay, this is a good example. So this evidence says that Iran will never deal with the U.S. in a confrontational manner. Literally, Iran has never attacked a U.S. military facility without being attacked first, which proves their point.
Whoa! They attacked a U.S. base in Iraq a few days ago.
Yeah, no, but that was in response to Soleimani. So that
in that case, everything is in response to everything. That's fine.
They don't actually launch attacks on their own accord.
That's fine. This Abdulrazak evidence. How does even if Saudi Arabia is not willing to use those weapons, how does that indicate the signaling of the arms deal?
The signaling of the arms deals towards who?
Yeah.
So then the Rosenshield evidence says that the only signal that arms deals send to Iran is that there is the potential that GCC states can retaliate to Iran's attacks. The oil attack clearly showed Iran that Iran does not have to fear retaliation from Saudi Arabia, because even though Iran wiped out half of Saudi Arabia's oil, Saudi Arabia literally did nothing in response. So often
it's about U.S. support and U.S. signaling commitments to back up Saudi Arabia. How does this speak to that?
Well, okay, if that is true, then why did Iran bomb Saudi oil if they really thought that the U.S. would come to their defense? The fact that the U.S. did not defend Saudi Arabia at all during the oil attack proves our point that at this point, deterrence is incredible at all.
Okay, I'll start prep 10 minutes starting now. Stop prep. I have 656. Did people hear me say stop prep? Okay, cool. The order is here. Let me send it first. Should be sent. The order is politics, the K, the counterplan, the relations disad, and case in the order of framing, then advantage. Is anyone not ready? Cool. First on the politics ad, concede the no impact economic decline. I'm not going for it. They say politics ads are a voting issue. No, reject the argument, not the team that all my answers and conditionality will probably cross-play. Go to the K. Conditionality is good. A logic proving the counterplan is bad. Improve the plan of superiority to status quo. The decision maker always the right to do nothing. Narrative creates an illogical model of opportunity cost. B is ideological flexibility. Box ends key test from the left and the right to read confidence advocacy. Force the advocacy of middle ground response to both ends of the ideological spectrum. We're learning to advocate the middle ground is valuable. C is next flexion. The topic counterplan check back instead of standard for all apps. And there is a topic disad. Condo is key to offset. D is no impact. 2 and our collapsing text firms are worse. 2 differences and times 2 worse. E is double on theory. Right on so the apps a 1 to 5 time advantage. Causes substance product. C is the permutation status competition. I'm not going for it. Go to the counterplan. The counterplan solves 100% of the case. Negotiations solved. Now we'll read a lot of evidence indicating Saudi Arabia wants to get out of the war. It's only a question of sustainable peace negotiation. The counterplan provides that by creating U.S. pressure for peace to work. For sufficiency framing, good is good enough. Any solvency deficits are impossible to quantify. You should prefer any chance of that benefit over arbitrary solvency deficits. Should be the burden of the affirmed to prove that it's necessary to solve. The burden of the negative prove that it's sufficient to solve on line by line. First they say the permutation, but no proof of no shielding argument. The 2Z means that links the net benefit still ends arms deal to Saudi Arabia, which means it still triggers the link to both the relations decide and the Iran decide. All the approach Tracy said was proved, but still make it do anything new. They say permanent counterplan, no theoretical justification for why they should get this counterplan is incredibly distinct because it doesn't actually end arms deal Saudi Arabia, which means there's no permanent counterplan justification. They say no pressure, but I'll read a lot of prove all of their solvency arguments. It fundamentally it's all a bit from 2019 or 2018, which means that our evidence specific to this Saudi ceasefire will outweigh. We'll also read for framing issue. You should also perform our evidence on explicit comparatively. Only the counterplan proves a sustainable peace. Out of Schmoser. Oh wait, restricting arms now speaks directly to the record of the war. The war economy difficult to plan. The peace would have to recognize the frozen that's dynamics of the war and war by the word. She said conflict that given the shift in policy to require the proponents accountable governance. Seems unlikely such an approach for reconstruction almost over just sustainable peace and supporting negotiations solved now. The Saudis want to leave. This is their 1AC evidence. We just cut the first half of the article. 1AC should lane 410. The U.S. must show support for Saudi Houthi and intervention negotiation region includes lasting political settlement. The conflict internal war in Yemen might stand to reach a point where ceasefire like that hold as possible. Saudi may finally have an option to consider material ceasefire likely to keep in Saudi Arabia less the research and the end with keep military activity as the Houthis in Yemen. Provides incredibly positive inside Saudi Arabia. Saudi government's also navigating oil price war pressure between COVID-19 crisis, low price oil, shoveling money, and soldiers losing war in Yemen and finally have become too costly. This evidence indicates that none of their other solvency deficits apply because all of it is from the 2019 war, doesn't assume the COVID-19 crisis and the low prices of oil devastating the Saudi economy. Now they want to get out of the war, which is a thesis level claim. We will win on every part of this flow. Saudi would negotiate with the Houthis for recent Abdullah 049. Saudi Arabia is more highly motivated than ever to end the war. Peace will allow them to be part of the national recognized legitimate transitional government, providing the combination of political voice and legitimacy that creates the 1990s Saudi said, whereas the Haiti government transition due to leverage. And the war is almost over. Students are on the brink of victory, and Saudis want to come to the table. Abdullah 049. Sorry, Marie represents Taipei in the last. And we're talking about the Yemeni government Houthi victory could balance the Yemeni government Saudi Arabia signaling efforts and willing to end the war threat of devastating KWS created opportunity for all the parties to reduce ceasefire without appearing even there. The only other argument they have in this kind of is an outdated solvency deficit. It's a link to that benefit argument, but they don't have an articulation of what the pressure to Saudi Arabia would not be distinct from the arms deals. Really a lot of arms deals key evidence on the dissent, which we'll go to now. The U.S. Saudi alliance will continue political pressures from the killing of Khashoggi made it fragile. Bahrain gives two warrants. One is balancing the U.S. Saudi alliance to prevent Iran from becoming a major power in the region. The only thing holding them back is U.S. protection. Second is abandonment. The U.S. leaving the alliance for Saudi Arabia to pick and choose from other partners. Those partners will be China and Russia, and relations tied down proposals to ally an oil market management. The energy crisis doesn't deck relations guarded. 31 top officials put aside proposal for the alliance to Saudi Arabia manage the global oil market. The cost of even consider high levels of the death and prices of these global oil industry role growing importance to use economy. Trump returns to the rails from Saudi Arabia and has to buy $100 billion in U.S. weapons to help capital loss shipments of crude oil. OPEC run a few imposed sanctions in 2018, and on the link to the plan uniquely decks this alliance. Beaver gives three warrants. One is reckless consensus with total deference on his wishes, especially in the context of arms sales. He throws a tantrum anytime he doesn't get what he wants. Uniquely answers any interoperability or other partners of. And second is limit test. Saudi sees limit test whether a country supports them or not. The act creates a sense of abandonment. Third is Yemen, where it's high stakes. Fear of Iran means them unable to withdraw. Saudi knows they can't rely on the U.S. harbor. 715. Saudi would not pursue endless engagement with our reliable partners. The military means they can have simple hack them and leave. Saudi may be thinking of violation with that developed hard course and reverse. Saudi cannot look at them and abandon allies and critical juncture would need to confront Iran. And fourth, link time for frame the argument relations are on off, which means perception. The plan is immediate insolvency. Takes longer means there's only a risk we turn case. Arms are key to U.S. Saudi relations. Answers all of the all costs. 19 U.S. Saudi relations bills and simple premise watching rights to relations past maintain large Saudi military by Washington around together and go to the impact to be the decide always in terms case increase of Russia, Chinese, and Iranian eject U.S. Germany, which is an impact filter. 13 states controlling the most crucial conditions for great power conflict turns. Yemen war 13 backsliding incentivize the continuation of the war in Yemen, and hedge decline is on the brink now, but the U.S. needs to step up containment. China specifically is a threat. Democracy Digest 325. Not be sensitive frail propaganda campaign only the U.S. refused to recognize there is a competition between countries and passive sides submitted with fatal and type of plague of the failure. This is being for the world likely for China's region gain power for cheese Africa. There's one dimension in the way China opposes the world, not the greatest one, the greatest that China sent to the global pandemic with the world model. That answers all of their hedge defense evidence because we're not going for the Russian stuff, and it's more unique than any of their defense on hedge. Go to case on framing. Extinction outweighs obliterates the essential condition for value makes it a prior question. Second is killing everyone for ethics and sacrificial logic of the inside. That's a dissad to the alt. VTL can never be zero. It's framing it as outweighs an absolute precontext for violence that makes people ethically disposable. Third is moral uncertainty. You can't know the best ethical course for humanity's existence. Creates the question of a possibility for value. That's philosophy. And four is utility. Never posit deontological claim. This proof must resolve on a consequentialist claim in order to see that rights are key to human flourishing. Necessary to show a certain action does or doesn't cause. That means we are a prerequisite to uphold their framing. Cross-ex is devastating on that fourth point because they don't have any explanation for bright line between what deontology, what utilitarianism, and they say deontology is we look more closely at genocide than YouTube. And no, we still say that things like the genocide, the entire world in the context of nuclear holocaust would still be bad. And VTL is subjective. Life is a prerequisite that also provides defense to all of their empathy claims because they don't have an external impact to empathy other than some nebulous VTL claims. So you don't let them make it into an external impact. That's Schwarzer too. Determination value of life is subjective to being in person experience. Will have decision in person one. Then how do you mean externally bad another person? The individual must get an opportunity to decide for themselves whether they think lives are worth living. And they say the probability person psychological bias, but Clark answers only value and probability leads to scope neglect. Remember, like billions of obscurity and frequency bias for most common events are prioritized. Turns are framed because these low probability, high magnitude events still cause unique levels of definition. Katrina proves their internal links rely on the same linear predictions. Our dissads to the NC's told they say these political actions would react in XYZ ways, which means we will stop this concrete level of violence. The only link is based on saying nuclear war, but that's not conjunctive. It's a possibility. Given existing tensions, we've accurately analyzed in the Middle East. The explanation claim doesn't make the dissad less likely than any of the advantage claims. Force them to create an incredibly predictable bright line for this claim, or don't give them any wide sweeping offense in any dissad we go for. And utility is necessary in public policy making, which is uniquely key. Good 95. Well, obliged to make the truth understanding you can tell you the utility behalf of a few people is hidden and killed by throwing clear the card about impact and steal people now great. They have a kind of regarding selection of public policy now permit those more size calculation required by needs to reward jail and war truth their impact leads to more structural violence and not the other way around. Gold 3. Please go action both the approach on peace work for justice. The report shows that the assumption and justice cause where the evidence suggests causality runs leads strongly the other way. Words not private capitalism, imperialism, gender, and need aggression are the single cause of justice, gender, and others work for peace. Even on justice, the brain cause worse thing to be here. Good adequate. Go to genocide advantage. COVID is the war now. Our evidence says Saudi doesn't have the motivation to keep fighting, and they're looking for a way out. They've entered talks a bunch of times, ignored who these advances abandoned the most offensive war making measures. This thesis level claim that means there's no impact they have, and the counterplans cosplay the three pieces of all the evidence. I read on the counterplans, even if we don't go for it, there's defense. The idea that Saudi wants to fight the war now, and I'll give the Harvard for 12 evidence. COVID means that Yemen definitely won't recover. Our evidence indicates infrastructural issues that are fundamental, external to the Saudi blockade, which means there will still be millions of people dying in Yemen. So they can't solve the civil war continues, even if Saudi retreats. There, when I see evidence again, we recut the article. What is she? Chilean 410. Even Saudi maintains this is very eventually the force of the Yemen civil war continue while welcome into it's still not in the violence of Yemen domestic war and fashion and incompatible agendas services are crazy fire into added for the Houthis. Skip the Johnson evidence. Then civilian casualties rapidly decreasing. Honey says new train proven lead to increased accuracy and target procedures. All the 180 examples of civilian casualties were accident, which means all we have to win is the Saudi government has gotten more accurate and stringent in approving sales. I'll read the Johnson evidence. Yemen will never recover from the civil war. Johnson 18. Civil war existed before Saudi Arabia intervened. You could no longer have to leave the worst fighting until they had the anti-alliance so they could break apart when Saudi Arabia withdraw. The South was going to want to succeed. North tried to succeed. I'm moving for cross X.
Are you good?
Yeah.
So on case, the only argument you extended was this like COVID thing, right?
I guess I would say no. First, I extended that COVID ends the war now. Second, I extended that COVID means that Yemen won't recover from the civil war. So, like, the number of people you say are dying in Yemen from airstrikes will still die. I also extended the civilian casualties turn that Saudi Arabia is getting more effective at targeting airstrikes.
Okay, that makes sense. On the Saudi relations side, you read this Harb evidence. That's like, it's high stakes for Saudi Arabia. They fear Iran, which means that they will literally never withdraw from the Yemen war. Why does this not take out solvency for the counterplan?
Sure, because our evidence and the link evidence is in the context of Saudi perceptions as of 2019. We would say that their understanding that they still fear the U.S. abandoning their support is still true, but we have evidence that assumes a COVID crisis and an oil literal price collapse that entered them into a huge oil fight with Russia.
Evidence makes a structural claim about the way that Saudi Arabia views the war, says that they will never ever leave it because they care so much about confronting Iran.
Yeah, I'm sure that Harb was I'm sure Harb knew what was happening at the time, but I'm also sure they didn't assume a worldwide pandemic that would threaten to wipe out half of the Saudi royal family.
So then Harb doesn't matter then? Like, so basically it like has no relevance as of now for like Saudi relations?
We would say that what Harb describes is a Saudi internal psychology that is fearful of American abandonment, not necessarily of losing the war in Yemen. That's the claim of the negative.
Okay, on the counterplan, where have you read evidence that says the Houthis will agree to the proposal that is given by the counterplan?
Sure. So our evidence indicates is very specific that, first of all, we recut 1AC evidence indicating that U.S. pressure to bring both parties to the table will resolve the blocks in negotiations. We would say that it's your own thesis level argument that Saudi Arabia has been the party preventing peace talks from succeeding in the past. I feel like you probably have a lot of evidence on that question in your 1AC.
That makes sense. So, okay, if that is true, then what sort of an agreement will the U.S. try to push for between Saudi Arabia and the Houthis? Like, what will that agreement look like?
We're not going to make a definitive claim. We would say the agreement would probably include a withdrawal of Saudi-supported forces, a prevention of the continued air and naval blockade, and it would provide for some
ambiguity surrounding that. So how do you prevent a ceasefire like the one that's happening in the status quo, where Saudi Arabia says that they will withdraw their forces, but refuses to try to enforce measures on the naval blockade?
I would make a distinction between a ceasefire and a political settlement. Our evidence indicates that a political settlement is possible post-ceasefire.
So how do you like convince Saudi Arabia and the Houthis to stop disagreeing over things when the Houthis want Saudi Arabia to stop the naval blockade? Saudi Arabia doesn't want to do it, and they have so many like.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia does want to stop the naval blockade. Our evidence speaks to a thesis level claim that Saudi Arabia wants out of the war, even the naval blockade.
Then why did they not stop it along with the ceasefire?
Because they've stopped with the ceasefire. We're arguing that Saudi Arabia wants to get out of the war.
We'll take prep.
$1 cent. It's
they'll take prep.
Okay. Oops. Y'all good?
Yeah, we have 5:40.
It will be just the Iran said.
Wait, did I say it 8 or 10? Did you send it?
Yeah. I sent it before y'all hit prep. Okay, everyone good?
Oh, wait a sec.
Okay. All right, good. I'll take that as yes. All right. Framing issue, Asian pro with aspects in the concession of it makes it try or die, causes mad gaps, preemptive strike to arm pressing in aspects territorial conflicts. That's one in Tantra, Japan and South Korea will nuke each other, and China to settle disputes, draws into the US because of alliances, and spills over Latin America and Europe. Means we access external offices to tiebreaker. Time frame outweighs it, determine twos and background twos, and you can only die once. We show a case on two levels. First, the link, if Pisa takes out solvency, rather than drawing down aggression, Iran will pocket the app, ask for more concessions, and get angry when they're denied. Includes aggression against Saudi and prolongs Yemen war. Second, the impact both obviates any reason the app is good, increases Saudi aggression and triggers last night Yemen by escalating the conflict. They consider a broader plan that allies internationally with the U.S. containment posture on Iran when calculating instead of support, which includes Saudi Arabia. That's tangible. It also means that most of their defense does not apply because it's all a question of whether or not allies perceive certain things to be true, i.e., better be more on versions of it here. We don't need to win defensive roles. And A is that China, Japan, and Korea all perceive Iran as revisionists, which means it doesn't matter if they are, as long as this country see them as revisionists. And then B is the link flips the switch. Frees up resources and enables Iran to dominate the region. Iran is a business, and that's the motto. A is empirical. The 2 is no counter explanation for why the nuclear deal caused them to increase support for terrorism. They accelerate their nuclear program, probably support for Assad, the fact they've been involved in the Yemen conflict, and all prove their drive for increased influence. B is only we assume common champions. Who they what? The kilometers of hard hitting sexual on the country and all funding her for question and I know when the demons and American and time services it's methods of crisis therapy, the artist or she mental from all sides, and then has no extra my conflict that has a little loose the things are highly drawn, and only artists post covet or even post a one view ending. Their arguments can't assume vast change the geopolitics uniqueness. All allies are reaffirmed now, and deterrence is robust. Only frames uniqueness. So long as the US is bolstering these military capabilities with allies, payment is possible. That's 20. Deterrence is high and uniquely now campus up to 31. Trump has not won an empire pressure along with almost next to him, hosting new now that it's not the time really those sanctions Iran has rejected humanitarian assistance and this level of sanctions is using the group of espionage Iranian government assassinated the situation we can resolve the international community. The next one was outlaw. It's never even mentioned offensive weapons. It's also a U.S. commitment to our allies because the internal is allied both not Iranian hegemony. That was all about it. I'll going to be here. The plan to containment strategy. There's 3% going more discreditability. The plan side defenseless. It strips away their capacity to deter Iran with incentivize Iranian aggression. That's in field. And number 2, the plan causes the Houthis to win the war, escalates Iranian hedge, and fuels the conflict, which takes out solvency. Gordon 19. Iran is illegally funding Yemen's Houthis with missiles and insurance. They're not in subsidy or with Saudi Houthis would since have taken over Yemen, Syria, Lebanon, Iranian aid, and number 2 talks several in the opposition. This has happened in Yemen because Saudi Arabia maximum pressure requires political components. Saudi is forcing Iran to keep expanding the war. That would be easily one. And arms was about a laundry list of services that are key to deter Iran. Quartzman and Harrington 18. Iran has made advances in creating forces that can start shipping U.S. power production, come say for Arabian and for Arab countries, the Gulf states have a massive advantage over Iran and sales to reinforce by access to modern renewable weapons, military technology, Gulf investment, and more knowledge industry more than Iran had better access to advance arms systems themselves by maintenance, training, and other services to keep our DFS program and sales structure to ensure the buyer. Our country requires a capability to properly support the arms advise overall patterns and arms and go arms, but by the way, partnership forces by buys. They can increase interoperability, create more effective, fighting power, commerce, and emphasize the charge capabilities for our transition. church that also have a clear lead armed forces, result modernization in key mission areas that enhance the terms of the goals to these arms and ports to develop the assassination, a conventional weapons and modernization overall the hybrid warfare kind of firing efforts on exploiting internal divisions, non-actors like group all the organs. They have conceded our impact. It's allied code of not a right hedge, which put all of their demons to battle. The internal like reversing containment loss spills over to undermine deterrence in East Asia, Japan, and South Korea would fear the US will cut the same deal, leaving them defenseless. China would take note, escalating their aggression in hotspots like the SCF. That's trying. They consider broader global claim, which means we saw for rapid allied pose in Asia. You don't give the woman, you don't give the one our new answers. They get no new cards at all. Only impact debate. We have not read any, but they misread this at it's all the cards are us. They think things like sanctions, killing heads, or weak Iranian military. They don't matter at all. It's only a question of whether or not we are sending, whether or not we're sending the symbols of a cooperation and us being able to back up allies to our allies like Saudi Arabia through arms with the close methods is excellent and much more specific to FMS and how specifically FMS because of deterrent capabilities against the countries like Iran, which they fosters in ourselves key claim, which is also made by one team Rosenfield. What?
Also, when you read a card on case, send it out.
Yeah.
I sent it out.
On a case. Canada's not cause for also 4-9. Canada's no case for Saudi Arabia with the COVID-19 pandemic following the conclusion of the review of American performance in Saudi Arabia. We have not begun reviewing permit applications. The Trudeau government had not review all Canada's existing arms of Saudi Arabia in 2018. There's no proof any weapons were being used. Or for it used.
We have 309.
Cards?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sending it out. focus.
Do you want me to make it higher?
No, it's okay. The order case advantage framing. The counterplan, the relations disad, and then the Iran disad. Is anyone not ready?
Wait 1 second. I'm opening the doc right now. Okay, I'm good.
Okay. On the advantage, they say that COVID comes, but we obviously can't solve all of the violence caused by COVID-19, but we can make it comparatively better. At least there won't be airstrikes or naval blockades to stop the aid from coming in. They say that the ceasefire solves the talks, but that Shiline, Carvajal, and Hubar. That worse is the Saudi announced the ceasefire will continue the violence to make it seem like the Houthis were the ones continuing the war. They'll use the Houthi violence as an excuse to restart the war. Second, they think Saudi thinks that they can still win the war. Warlords have the influence over them. Third is they don't want to give up an influence to Iran. And fourth is that airstrikes have continued on Houthi targets. Fighting is escalating, and Houthi demands aren't being met. AFP 416 Yemen's war shows that no sign of abating after Saudis declared a truce. Despite how Saudis announced fighting on the ground and collision airstrikes continue. Cut the card and continue. They say the Saudi targeting is getting improved, but it doesn't matter if the blockade is ongoing and genocide should still always be rejected. They say Canada, but it doesn't come because Kane and Bassi evidence is saying that the U.S. arms is sufficient. Saudi can't get maintenance from any other country, and the signal is strong enough. On the framing page, they say extinction first will prefer a probability and multiply the links. It's key to prevent a 0.001 chance of extinction outweighing millions of deaths that's happening now, and genocide comes first because bystanders have an obligation to the victims, and it's unethical to watch suffering without doing anything. They say UTO first, but reject UTO first. The study show it suppresses empathy while deontology fosters the only empathetic practice gives us the emotional intelligence and reduces bias and makes us better people. That was the Miko. Second is UTO is included because future lives cannot suffer. This means they have always on magnitude because our impact are the only ones that exert violence now. That's Olsen, the counterplan. Reject their sufficiency framing. Genocide must be rejected in every instance. It's never going to be good enough. Do both. It shows because the plan would be spun as an effort for negotiations and leads to backlash because the counterplan can't solve the Yadav and Schroeder evidence from 2018 should be thrown out because it doesn't assume recent conditions. The Shiline evidence goes at the bottom half of the Shiline evidence says despite these conditions, Saudi will not leave the war because they think they can still win and they don't want to give up ground to Iran. Also, if they're right that Saudi will negotiate, the Houthis will not. The 1AC evidence says that Saudi will not give up the blockade despite the conditions their evidence talked about, which means that the Houthi will never come to the table. That was the MEM evidence. Also, the counterplan fails because the peace talks take years. Saudi Arabia will never take them seriously. Only ending ourselves will make them focus. That was the Christian evidence. A child dies every 10 minutes, so the counterplan is complicit with the genocide and kills thousands. Second, is Saudi who violates the peace talks. The Abdul Karim evidence says that Saudi is ramping up the war now as it's fight. Talks with Houthis are launching airstrikes and bombing Houthi targets with truce. They never intended to end the war in the first place.
Yeah, no, read it.
Yes.
Read
Okay. No negotiations failed. Cross-ex proves that repression Saudis are vague term and they don't know what a settlement will look like. Montgomery says that that Trump won't expend enough capital to solve because he doesn't want to look weak on Iran. And Trump will agree to a vague deal to make it look like he's a deal maker, which restarts the war because the settlement will be incomplete. The relations this sad. Obama ended PGMs, which should have definitely felt the impact. There's no link. Only an offensive sales. Georgia and Goodman evidence says that defensive sales like that can defend Iran. Second, Omar says that Saudi cares so much about the U.S. president that they will not seek alternative guarantees from Russia and China because they know that Russia and China don't have the same military infrastructure in the area. The Harb evidence says that Saudi will never draw down, which proves that the counterplan fails. Relations decline is inevitable. First, it's definitely dead. Soleimani was a bull from the blue. That was Afdal Italy. And second is Iran not responding to September attacks made Saudi lose faith in the alliance. Their only answer was that the U.S. increased arms, but the Passab evidence assumes that this and says that arms weren't enough to make up for the lost reliability. They no internal link to Russian hedge. Impact doesn't turn states. There's no reason Yemen war would restart. There's no reason why Saudi is key to a Russian hedge in the region. Russia already expanded arms sales to Iran, Egypt, and Turkey. That was a clean enough evidence, and they expanded to Syria. That was Rahman. There's no link internal.
You're right.
And BRI cements Chinese hedge in the Middle East. China developed deep economic ties and is working on infrastructure. Is a key. It's on a Chinese Marshall Plan. That was the later evidence, which states out that internally Iran just said. No turns case, Iran can't ask for more condition into Yemen because because our defense proves that they don't have the capability to expand. Iran's military is outdated. The DIB is weak and has a poorly trained army. That was Slim Simons. And Prolif doesn't turn their evidence about Asian proliferation, not Saudi prolif. That's right. They have dropped that other capabilities will offset the app and deter. First is that the U.S. Defensive weapons like that can provide interoperability and can deter. Second, the U.S. Sent aircraft carriers, weapons, and troops that's sufficient to deter Iran without arms. So without Baldur. Third is the U.S. saying you killed Iran's economy. They won't do anything to provoke the U.S. Those good men, they simply can't fund missions and want to protect their own economy. There's no link. Their argument about credibility is wrong because the U.S. didn't fund Saudi Arabia when their oil was attacked. It should have deterrability. And Abdullah says that Soleimani had the same effect. They said that Houthis win, but that's inevitable. They don't have evidence that says that Saudi will win. Now Houthis will win inevitably. Also, Saudi 3-3. Saudi is losing the war in Yemen. Saudi failed to provide military support to fend off the Houthis. Houthis says an airstrike that can bomb one vehicle. You do the math. Create resentment. Mark Ricard. The Gordon and Harrington evidence is wrong. Right? It's not specific to it's not Saudi specific. So other GCC countries can check Iran. Second, it doesn't matter that Saudi has good tech because they won't use offensive weapons for deterrence. They don't even use them to retaliate to Iran's attacks on oils. That was Abdul Perez. Proves that Iran won't feel deterred by arms and Saudi has zero value.
I have 6:48 starting now. order will be the negotiations counterplan. Actually, let's do Iran disad. The relations disad. The negotiations counterplan. Then case in the order of framing advantage.
Can you say that one more time, please?
Yeah. Iran, relations, the counterplan, framing.
Advantage at the bottom or framing at the bottom?
Advantage at the bottom.
Okay.
Is anybody not ready? There's a framing issue. The 2AC is fundamentally non-responsive to both the Iran disad and the counterplan. It doesn't read significant evidence extended in the 1AR, but that assumes the COVID crisis, which will win as a thesis-level claim that implicates all of their offense. First, on the overview for the disad framing issue, their defense is not based on the Allied prolif impact on the 2AC. Don't give them any of their framing issue claims on the framing page because they conceded Asian prolif escalates and contention of it literally makes it try or die. The conceded impact prolif definitely outweighs, which bolsters utility because the conceded prolif is incredibly likely and causes nuclear war specifically in Asia. That means they can't access stuff like compounding risk bad because they haven't proven the top level claim that our impact is 0.001% likely. It's incredibly likely because they have no defense. Proliferation in East Asia causes mad gaps, preemptive strikes, arm racing, and escalates territorial conflicts. Our evidence indicates Japan and South Korea will new places like China to settle disputes. We also have an incredibly recent evidence indicating China's making a play for increased hegemony now, which means Allied prolif is on the brink. Only the affirmative tips it over the edge because it sends a key signal of credibility. I'll do that on the link debate. They can see the Tanzer evidence that indicates that it will cause East Asian prolif. All of their argument here is that it doesn't, but the Tanzer evidence is specific and it also causes Middle East prolif. Extend the time frame outweighs. You can see that it determines whose impact turns whose, and you can only die once. Extend the two turns case levels, both of which fundamentally aren't handled well enough. Extend the Beeson takes out solvency rather than drawing down a run while pocket. They haven't asked for more concessions to get angry with their denial. When they only answer this is the run is revisions, but I'll win that on the revision debate. Includes aggression against Saudi and prolonged Yemen, where second is the impact prolif. It beats any reason the atmosphere because increases Saudi aggression and triggers lash out in Yemen by escalating the conflict. That goes conceded. Tanzer makes this deliver claim that Asian prolif causes more Allied prolif generally, which means they functionally conceded the Saudi Arabian prolif internally coming out of the 1AR. That's the only answer to the Tanzer evidence. Doesn't assume extend at the top of the run is fundamentally an aggressive revisionist powers. Their answers don't assume the recent evidence we read that says stuff like sanctions have only made Iran more aggressive and more willing to lash out in the status quo, which means we have a fundamental recency problem that they cannot contest with anything they've read. Stuff like Iran escalation because of the sanctions, because of pressure on the royal family means even if they weren't revisionists when their evidence was written, they definitely are now on the link debate, which is the only other piece of defense they can win. Extend the arms sales key. The Courtsman evidence is fantastic on this question and answers all their solvency deficits. They say no evidence to GCC countries solve, but no, it doesn't say. It says that Saudi Arabia's key details FMS program being key to Gulf states. They say that other GCC countries solve, but no, because they don't have any arguments about what other Gulf countries are in the business of actively preventing war against Saudi Arabia. Countries like they have to identify specific countries that have specific things to get us wrong, so they don't have any evidence on it. Also details the FMS program being key to things like three arguments. One is interoperability to increase the interoperability between the US and Saudi Arabian troops, which means that means stuff like fighter jets, which are fundamentally offensive weapons, defensive don't solve. Courtsman is also all about offensive weapons in the context of modernization, which means there's key military modernization, key mission areas like the fighter jet pilots, which they would definitely get rid of to prevent the air campaign. Third is it kills Iranian hybrid warfare, which is a key thesis level claim on the revisions debate because Iranian is trying to focus on exploit and
I think she just like got
Can I-
figured off or something.
Yeah, can we hear?
Yeah, I can hear y'all.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I will call her.
how did you lose me?
Yes.
Yeah, we lost you. You were at
like,
you were at Iranian
That's
hybrid
key.
warfare, which Iran cares a lot about. That's key, and then you cut off. So just, I don't know where you were on a timer. I don't have one up, but
I
just
think it was 2:10. I think I
Okay.
looked at it like right before, and no, it was about 2:10.
Okay, sorry.
no,
Yeah,
you're totally fine. It's no big deal.
All right, 210 starting now. Military modernization includes Iranian hybrid warfare, which is key. It also proves the revisions because they're using it to exploit internal divisions and more effectively aggress against countries. Go to relations. On the relation of the impact, I'm not going for it.
Arms sales are key to reassure allies. That's Corsman.
Arms sales are key to reassure allies. That's Corsman. I did a bunch of work on those
Revisionism doesn't matter. Only about allies perceiving Iran being revisionist.
It's only about allies perceiving Iran as aggression. That's a credibility link, which is at the top, which isn't answered by any of their stuff about Saudi Arabia not perceiving, because it's all about allied countries in East Asia, which is the internal link to our terminal impact, which I did above. Yeah, go to the counterplane. The counterplane solves 100% of the case. Negotiations solved now. There's a framing issue. There's just no solvency deficit based in evidence, assuming the pressures on Saudi due to COVID, and it's only a question of sustainable peace negotiation. The counterplane provides that by creating U.S. pressure for peace, extends sufficiency framing. Good is good enough. Solvency deficits are impossible to quantify. Extend the cross-section so we can just keep the counterplane. If you think it doesn't solve the affirmative, we shouldn't be settled with an argument. Conditionality is absolute. They say the perm no, there's no shielding argument. The perm still links the net benefit because it still sends a signal of abandonment, even if we pressure Saudi Arabia. That's just another and it's an indication that we're supporting negotiations, not they want only not that we're abandoning them. They say the Saudi will slow roll peace up, but all of their evidence is from 2019 or 18 and assumes that Saudi Arabia doesn't want the peace. But we made a thesis level claim that also takes out the impact of the advantage that Saudi Arabia wants to get out of the war now. The only argument they have on this that's at all recent is the evidence that we've recut and says that both Saudi Arabia want to get out of the war. It says that it's possible they want to put the Houthis breaking the peace process, but how about the article concludes that it's more likely Saudi Arabia wants to get out of the war because none of their evidence assumes things like COVID destroying half the royal family and them getting into oil price wars, which would depleted their reserves. But framing. The 1 AR is just not good at the top of framing. They say the probability is 0.01%. I did the impact calc on the Iran decided, which means you don't.
Damn. Okay. I have it at like 25 seconds.
I'm back. Sorry, my Wi-Fi keeps cutting out.
Okay,
No,
Eleanor,
totally
I think you're at 25 seconds.
Okay.
And it was like impact calc was on Iran was the last thing I heard.
Okay. Yeah, 25 seconds. Where did you catch me?
Impact calc was on Iran. Like I did the impact calculus on Iran.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. The only other argument they have that could win this debate is the ethicality and empathetic evidence, but they don't have any bright line considering what utilitarianism and what deontological considers empathy and what that empathy actually spills over to do. Don't give the 2 AR any new contextualization on this question because the 2NC explicitly flagged as an X area where they didn't have enough explanation. Extended Clark evidence indicates that biases from probability first also exist, which means they answered all their questions. Utilitarianism is fundamentally preferable because they don't have any offense indicating utilitarianism is necessarily bad. Also, all of our impact calc indicates our impacts are real.
How much time does the app have right now?
I have 309.
Cool.
Yeah, we have 309 as well. Sorry.
Wait, can I use the restroom before I start my speech? Okay. The order is case, then framing, then the counter plan, and I ran. Or actually, sorry. So it's just framing. I don't know why I said case. So just framing, counter plan, then I ran. Okay, is everyone good? Good, okay. You should vote out on a certain risk of case that definitely outweighs the low probability of a dissat. That definitely means that as long as we're able to mitigate the risk of a dissat happening by just a little bit, a risk that we win, a framing argument that our impacts come first means that it's an auto F ballot because the counterplay basically doesn't solve any of the F. Their only argument against our deontology, for instance, that there's no reason, no specific reason why empathy is key, but they have completely conceded the Olsen evidence coming out of the 2 and R is an independent dissat to utilitarianism says that when we prioritize future lives that are dying, it is a form of temporal blackmail that infinitely differs trying to solve violence in the present, which allows for thousands of millions of people to die, to die in the present, which is a fundamentally unethical system that says Olsen says you should reject. This is a completely conceded dissat to util proves that it should be auto which means that you should automatically flip your decision calculus to affirm deontology. That means genocide definitely comes first. You, as the bystander, have a uniquely higher threshold of what you're obligated to do. We are the last hope for the victims, which means we shouldn't let them down. Now, the next argument I will go for is the fact that using deontology is necessary to foster empathy among students. We have the most specific evidence in the round. All of your appeals to how empathy isn't specific is just BS, because obviously the Conway evidence is that on average, whenever people default to utilitarian judgments, people are more likely to foster empathetic parts of their brain. And the Amico evidence is that that is vital to creating good student leaders who will go onto the world and become actual good people, reduce violence and biases, which means that we have an in-round impact that definitely outweighs theirs. Theirs are all theoretical, whereas ours can actually make us better people. Proof that it comes first. Now, on the counterplan, the genocide comes first, which means that even a small solvency deficit, that means that the counterplan even causes one more instance of targeted genocide, means that the counterplan should be rejected on face, as according to the framing page. The 2NR did not get to the counterplan with enough time, did not deal with the nuanced arguments that we were making as to why the counterplan cannot solve the F. One is the Christian evidence that's about time frame. It says that a peace deal is only effective with the F, because only when we end all arms deals to Saudi Arabia will Saudi Arabia feel pressured enough and get serious about negotiations. Otherwise, they will just keep stalling in the status quo and not agree to status quo negotiations. The Christian evidence specifically says that those talks would draw on for years, which means that thousands and thousands of people will die in the interim. First, that they can't access the framing page. Second is that the Montgomery evidence is literally better than every single negative card that they've read in this debate. It says that because the counterplans threshold for what is a good peace deal is so vague, Trump will just consent to the vaguest agreement possible because he just wants credit that he ended the Yemen war. This consenting to a vague agreement will inevitably entrench the warring parties and ensure that the war will continue after the counterplan completely conceded in the 2NR, means that this counterplan has zero probability of solving the Yemen war and only ending all arms deals have the ability to solve. Iran. Oh wait, and also back on the counterplan, their argument about how Saudi Arabia wants out now is not offense against the out. We've read much more recent evidence that says that Saudi Arabia has increased airstrikes and the naval blockade, which proves that this doesn't come the out. Okay, Iran. All of their turns case scenarios are contingent on them winning the link, because both of them, both their scenarios about Asian prolif as well as Middle Eastern prolif are about concerns about U.S. reliability or the U.S.'s deterrent posture. As long as we're able to zero out a risk of a link, none of this actually matters. I'll specifically answer their prolif scenario, prolif link turn. Just because Saudi Arabia gets nukes does not mean that they re-intervene into Yemen. They have conceded, the Bosnia evidence that says that we send a signal to Saudi Arabia that the war can be won, which means that it forces Saudi Arabia to draw down afterwards, which means that they will not want to intervene afterwards because they fear the U.S.'s wrath. There's nothing about getting nuclear weapons that will make them want to reverse that. Now on the link debate, this isn't even close. We have made multiple arguments as to why there are multiple deterrence measures in place that are able to outweigh the small decrease in deterrence that will happen if we end offensive arms sales. One is the fact that they conceded the good evidence that says that Iran has devastating sanctions imposed on it, which means that they literally cannot function as a country right now and will never launch any positive military moves. This means that these sanctions are so devastating that even if the AF decides to reduce offensive arms sales, it sends a sufficient signal to allies that the U.S. is willing to deter Iran. Two is the Baldur evidence. The U.S. literally sent an aircraft carrier to the Middle East to deter Iran. Baldur says this is sufficient to get Iran to back down no matter what happens with the offensive arms sales. Proves that it is sufficient to outweigh the signal of the AF. But if their argument is that these things are still outweighed by a small instance of the U.S. backing down, that is already thumped because they conceded on the relations to that the U.S. already did not defend Saudi Arabia when Saudi Arabian oil was being attacked, which is that the U.S. is already unreliable and will not stand up to Iran. Also, all these other concerns about interoperability and hybrid warfare are solved or are inevitable because they concede that all Dastani evidence that says that Saudi Arabia will lose the war inevitably, which means all these warrants about hybrid warfare as well as failing Iranian deterrence are inevitable because Iran will inevitably win the war now, and there's absolutely no risk that deterrence will continue in the future because the Houthis will beat Saudi Arabia eventually, and the dissent is going to be.
Good debate.
Eleanor, I can make the card doc for Iran.
Okay, cool. I'll do it for the counterplan.